All right. So as I mentioned that we have these colleagues who will be um, teaching this course with me. Each of these, including myself, will be teaching different parts of this course. And the parts have been divided more or less thematically in terms of the interconnectedness. Uh, Even though different people will be teaching different parts of the course, the evaluation will be common. We will all be coming together to put together the questions, and we've already decided on the policies for this particular course. You don't need to be too concerned about who's going to teach, because all of my colleagues are excellent teachers, and I'm unashamed to say that some of them are even better than I am. So please make it a point to watch the material that becomes available on Impartus on regular intervals, because we will not be sending out emails unless until there is a live lecture schedule like today. And as a result, you will be largely responsible for your own progress through this course. And this may be a little bit different from what you might have experienced earlier in high school, or at least plus one and plus two, where there was a lot of spoon feeding that went on. See, IIT, or for that matter any professional program, is fundamentally different from school education, because when you enter IIT, some of you may not notice it, but you actually cross up an important threshold from being a child into being an adult. And as an adult, you were expected to make decisions that are in your rational self-interest. And I assume, at least going by the initial responses to the feedback I requested last night, most of you are interested in doing rather well in your future career. And one of the ingredients of such a career would be a great CGPA, and one of the ingredients of a great CGPA are good grades, and understanding what is being taught in class, no matter what form it takes, and solving problems on your own, thinking about it, reading ahead, and that is something I can't emphasize enough. If you Some students do take the view that yes, it's fine, I'm more or less coasting through the lectures, but I will really study seriously when I get close to the exams. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad strategy for everybody, but it is a strategy that is full of risk, which means that if you keep doing this, at sooner or later you're going to run into a situation where the amount of load that you have very close to the exam is unexpectedly high. And as a result, you're going to, suffer as a, and this also in any case is not a very healthy way to live your life, because it increases the amount of stress you have to undergo, unnaturally, uh, around the time of exams. And stress is very closely related to, reduced performance in beyond a certain point. Some amount of stress is good because it keeps you alert and serious, but when it goes beyond a point, it becomes self-defeating. So my suggestion is that please be regular in class, or at least following up on the course materials. Read ahead. Please use the forums that have been set up. The student discussion forum should be a beehive of activity. We are not going to, and this is something I can't emphasize enough, we are not going to respond to your queries on Teams, even though it seems rather similar to other instant messaging platforms that you might be used to. Frankly, something that is related to your course deserves the seriousness of a well-posed question and a well-posed answer. And that can only happen when you are not, in the rush of things and sending off messages here and there. This is not, the WhatsApp model of a course doesn't really work. So we will not be responding to your queries on Teams. Please do not send individual emails unless and until it is a matter which requires privacy. And in that case, we can assure you that we will treat that as privileged communication, and no one beyond anyone who has a need to know will basically share in those details. And even in those cases, we will exercise our own judgment in anonymizing it as necessary, if necessary. So anything related to the course, anything related to the course contents, scholastics, etc., should be on Moodle. And this also has an additional advantage of other colleagues being able to help you with your questions. So one of the big challenges of this pandemic has been that the group study model that was present at IIT Delhi and other educational institutions has suffered greatly. Um, uh, uh, Communication has become a bit more impersonal, and that I believe is to the detriment of overall educational standards. But having a common discussion forum where people participate and help each other out, even if it is a wrong answer, somebody will correct you. So you have to understand that in some sense you're crowdsourcing an answer that way. Of course, TAs and us will be there to set the discussion straight and also chip in with the answers over there. But the idea clearly is to enable a shared learning experience, which somehow mimics the on-campus experience that you are all missing at present because of the unfortunate situation out there. So further, I would like to point out that this is your first, and for many of you, possibly the only course on various aspects of electrical engineering. And what is new this time is that the lecture tutorial and the lab components have been split because of the pandemic. Um, we are going to be running the lab as well as the lecture and tutorial. So to the 595 students who are in the groups 21 to 40, we'll be taking both of them with us. The other 20 groups, groups 1 through 20, will be taking lab. So essentially, the entire first year will be taking the lab with us. I will not spend too much time discussing the lab here because I was told that there are some graduating students who have backlog who will be registering for the lab component later in this week or perhaps early next week. So the introductory lecture on the lab component as well as the needed instruction on error analysis and important techniques that are needed for interpretation of experimental data are going to be deferred for about 10 days or at least until after March 8th. Also, scheduling the lecture, since there is no formal lecture component to the lab, will need to be done sometime in the evening or on Saturday. But this lecture is going to be like a one-off or a two-off type of a situation. So it's not something you need to regularly budget in your timing. Many of you, at least as of this morning, 402 of you, to be precise, have taken a look at the introductory handout, which has been placed on the page for ELL 101. And there's a separate one for ELP 101, which many have also taken note of. Please read it. All the course policies are detailed there. If you have any questions regarding that, we'll be happy to answer questions now or on the student discussion forum. Also, a feedback item which is kind of gone viral has been placed on ELP 101. So please view and fill it out. The reason this feedback item has been placed is that I need to understand what kind of a demographic we are dealing with, because all of you are struggling with various challenges such as intense course pressure, which is a given at IIT Delhi and other IITs. But in addition, in somewhat unique circumstances of social distancing and isolation, and then also there are technological challenges, some of which is visible today, for instance, and so that's a concern that we will need to address. As I mentioned earlier, I will be discussing the technique and the various technological issues that have happened today in terms of limit of the number of students with ETSC, and we will be sorting that out before this raises head again. And any questions over here are welcome. Those of you who have read the introductory handout are welcome to pose questions if you need to. You can unmute yourself and questions right now. I'll give you 5 minutes.
Sir, will you share the course statistics?
Pardon?
Sir, will you share the results of the personality quiz?
Why are you so interested in the personality quiz?
Simply interesting.
That information is for our benefit, not yours. I mean, it's all anonymized, so I have no problems in sharing it with you. If that's the demand of the class, we'll do that. Yeah. So yeah, sure, why not?
So will we have quizzes?
Yes, there will be 7 quizzes on all ELL 101. They will be roughly bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks. And these will all be on Moodle, just like the rest of the exams, and they will be auto-graded and the rest of the good stuff. So yes, so that is another reason for you to be regular in class.
So tutorial sessions would be held every other week or every week?
Tutorials will be every other week so far as we are planning it. We may choose to actually go every week depending upon how quickly we can ramp up. There are certainly no tutorials this week because for starters, we have not taught enough in class yet to actually deserve a tutorial. So yeah, so but all such information will be made available as announcements over Moodle. So yeah, so please stay tuned.
Is there any recommended platform, something to learn LaTeX?
Hello. Yes, one at a time, please.
So you specified LaTeX in one of your documents using math. So is there any recommended platform to learn that or something?
If you want to learn LaTeX after going through the using math document, I would recommend the various sources that are available online. So how do I start writing in LaTeX? So just Google or Bing or whichever search engine is your favorite is your guide over there. There's so much. See, one of the big advantages that you have that, let's say, I did not have when I was your age, is that there is so much open source information available online that the purpose of actually owning a book has mostly gone away, at least in skill acquisition, if nothing else. Yeah.
So what is the timetable for ELP?
One at a time, please.
So what is the timetable for ELP course?
The timetable will be that you will be given a certain number of labs to conclude. So it'll all start with us releasing a lecture on Impartus, which will be a demonstration of the lab. And I would advise you to watch that carefully, especially the various experimental methods used. Then we will be posing certain questions as a quiz on Moodle, which will be based on that. You will have roughly 2 weeks to complete that quiz. That quiz will make reference to a thought experiment of some sort, where you will be given experimental conditions in which you have to carry out a certain experiment virtually. And virtually over here means that, okay, it will be an experiment similar to the one that you saw in the video, but with components that are unique to you. So for instance, the value of a resistor or a capacitor could be completely unique to you. And there will be tech notes for the various components used. For instance, if there is an op-amp being used for an amplifier circuit, we will basically include a link to the tech note for that particular op-amp. You will be expected to read through it and try to understand what parameters are relevant to the experiment, and carry out competent data analysis and answer a few questions. And I need to emphasize at this point that error analysis is central to doing experimental analysis, and people who don't do error analysis will lose a lot of credit in the various lab reports. Yeah. So because you have to, any experiment has uncertainty, and if you don't put an uncertainty on the numbers you're reporting, that experiment is more or less meaningless. Yeah.
Sir, majors and minors will be announced prior.
Just one at a time. We have plenty of time over here. Please go ahead.
Sir, majors and minors, will they be like quizzes on Moodle? Like we have to enter.
So first of all, please stop using the term major and minor. I know it is very typical to IIT Delhi, but the term major and minor means something entirely different in the rest of the academic universe. So first of all, so we are going to call them midterms and end terms. And second thing, they will be of sufficient difficulty as to address the period of teaching that has gone on before them. So the midterm will naturally address all the topics that have been discussed in class and tutorials prior to the date of the midterm itself, including anything issued on the last evening before the exam, because that is the IIT way. It has always been. And same goes for the end term, which will address everything that has gone on the entire semester. Of course, in the end term, there is going to be a tendency to emphasize the concepts that have been introduced later in the course. Because so, yeah. So they will all be on. Yeah.
Sir, will you announce the dates of the quizzes before the class, or will we know? Will we like surprise quiz?
Well, so in our time, we used to surprise this part, but I don't think it makes sense here. So they will be announced quizzes, so don't worry about it.
So, sir, ELP 101 is finally for the lab stuff, na?
Mm-hmm. Yes, what about
ELP 101 is finally for the lab and everything, na? But, sir, it's
Correct.
not included in the timetable. So, you will be sending us mail prior to the labs?
Like I said, that the entire lab reporting period starts with the release of a video on Impartus. And since that is asynchronous, it will be up to you to view it and try to understand it at your own time. All that I can say is that after you have viewed it, you should go to the quiz, see what kind of questions are there, and download the necessary resources and start working on whatever the questions are posed. You will have about 2 weeks to, answer that quiz. Yes. So there's no need for, announcement as such. The only trigger over here to start off the whole thing is A, the release of an Impartus video, and B, a deadline for submitting the quiz for that particular period. Yeah.
So how will we do labs?
These will be unfortunately all be virtual, and I really hate that part because you will be not getting as many or rather as much exposure to hands-on skills which are necessary in the lab. And I know that nearly 30 to 40% of you so far, at least of the respondents on that feedback item, have indicated that you were mainly looking forward to the lab. So there was a debate internally within IIT Delhi to defer the labs to later for everybody. But the issue is that since EL 100 lab component or ELP 101 as it is known now, you have labs basically twice a day and basically or 5 days a week and both semesters. So if we defer the labs for you, it'll become a backlog item that can only be discharged during summer, because during regular semesters the labs will be occupied, assuming when we reopen physically, with other people who are trying to finish their lab, and that will create a major logistic problem. So it was decided that it is best to do it in this virtual form right now, rather than leave it as a backlog which creates unending problems for you later in your program. So that's an unfortunate side effect of COVID-19, that this lab in some sense is more about data and data analysis, error analysis, visualization, rather than actual, stand at the bench and deliver type of a, lab experience. So yeah, so there is a radical difference between this lab and previous labs in this course. Yeah.
So then what about semester 2B?
The dean will communicate with you guys about semester 2B. As far as I'm concerned, we are going to be finishing up the lab requirements this semester. And if you have completed the lab component of this course, you should not have to logically worry about semester 2B at all. At least that's my logical read.
Sir, the quiz will contain the content of ELL 101 and ELP 101 both.
Which one?
Sir, quizzes. The quizzes will be conducted.
ELL 101 and ELP 101 are distinct courses. So the quizzes, so if you go through the handout, there are different credit structures for each of those courses, and they don't cross over. You are expected to learn from both because ideally, or rather in reality, the lab and the lectures supplement each other, which is why these two courses are being run parallel to each other. But as far as credits themselves are concerned, they will be self-contained. Yes.
Sir, are we going to use any software for lab?
Pardon?
Sir, are we going to use any software for lab?
no more software than you actually need to. Maybe you will need to use MATLAB or Octave for data analysis. Maybe we might give you like a short simulation type of an experiment to do online or something. That has not yet been fully decided, because the exact questions that are needed for the lab reports will be decided as that report becomes, at least ready for posting. So can't prejudge that issue right now. We will see how it goes, because you need to understand that this way of running a virtual lab is new to us as well as it's new to you. So there's going to be learning involved at both ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
It means we will not be like reading the values, and also we won't be able to like the general setup that has been there in the
So
lab.
the purpose of the video will be for you to understand how that experiment is conducted. And there will be certain circuit components that you will be exposed to, and you will watch as they are laid out on a breadboard or whichever way. And we will be posing questions based on that. So, yeah.
So, if our lectures are going to be conducted in a flip mode over Impartus, what exactly would happen in the 3 lecture sessions which have been assigned in the timetables?
I don't think you need to worry too much about that, because in terms of instruction, we have been given the freedom to either run these asynchronously or as live. Now, whatever is the method chosen to deliver them, they will be available on Impartus. But for certain topics, it may be better for us to do it live, and that will be announced ahead of time. But no matter when that is scheduled, it will be scheduled during this tutorial or lecture hours, and you need to clear your schedule for those. So don't let anything else encroach upon it. So slot E is the lecture timings for this particular course, ELL 101. Don't schedule any other activity from 10 to 11 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That would be my advice. We may not use all those slots, but you will be expected to be available at short notice. So I might, like, for instance, today I sent out the email like 15 minutes before, so please be ready for scheduling of that sort. This is study time. Yeah.
Okay. So in the feedback given on Moodle, the applied mechanics branch is not there. AM1.
Pardon?
In the feedback given on Moodle, the applied mechanics branch is not there.
Oh,
AM1.
I'm sorry. It's a new edition, so I'll go ahead and add that. So hold on for that. Yeah, they just started it recently. Yes. Any other questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what are the respective credits
regarding
the ELL and ELP respective?
They're two independent courses. So if you look at email, I think I will request one of my colleagues to speak up. Do we have the exact credits for each? Manan, Saif, for anybody?
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, Manan.
Yeah, Madhusudan, can you please repeat that question? Sorry.
So the student is curious about what are the credits for EL 101 and ELP 101. So in terms of their CGPA calculation.
So the two things are going to be graded separately, right? As per the policy. So.
But they want to know whether it's a 3 credit or a 2 credit course or something like that. I think that's what they're asking.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if we go by the 310 and 002 model, because ELL 101 is 310, so that will make it a 4 credit course, and ELP 101 is 002, so that will make it a 1 credit course. Now, assuming those things hold, and that should be the credit for each.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the case. 310 and 002.
Yeah.
So we'll be having assignments for ELP 101.
Yes, well, we call them lab reports. So those are your assignments in a lab course. Yes.
Okay, and there will be no EndSem and MidSem for ELP 101.
I strongly advise you to read the handout for ELP 101. It was placed there yesterday. It does say that there is an end term involved, and there is going to be an introductory quiz in about 3 weeks from now, based on the contents of the the live lecture I'm going to conduct about 10 days from now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So you should. So I must emphasize this. Please read the introductory handouts. It's very important since you are just starting out at IIT Delhi. Many of you are, obviously coming from a fairly intense, at least as of 6 months ago, JEE preparation experience, and very often that forces people to think in terms of wrong answer elimination or reading just the relevant parts of the text or whatever. That has changed now. You need to develop the skill of reading in long form, and please treat the introductory handouts in the either course as initial practice. But you will need to, read a lot. Yes, not just this course, but in general, if you want to be successful in your career here. Yeah.
Sir, just to confirm, has there been any video uploaded yet? Okay, so just to confirm, has there been any video uploaded yet on Impartus regarding the courses?
This is the very first lecture, and this will be the first one that is uploaded. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the labs of ELP were mostly be held on the tutorials of ELL.
The two courses have nothing to do with each other. They will be individually scheduled. So the tutorials for EL 101 do not have anything to do with the ELP 101 course.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we can go forward. So I think we have more or less discussed this part. So the only thing that we have not discussed yet is that we have a bunch of teaching assistants who will lead tutorial live sessions, and this will be roughly once every 2 weeks, or it might even be every week, depending upon need. And I've already created tutorial groupings for the groups 21 through 40, because that is the cohort that is taking EL 101 this time. So that part is covered. Credit distribution. So midterm is 25%. There will be 7 quizzes, 5% each. End term is 40%. Grading. I know all of you are very concerned about grading. Grades depend upon your Z-scores, and Z-score is defined as this quantity, and this mathematical expression in the top right. So Z of I is X of I being your score minus X bar, which is the average of the class, divided by sigma, which is the standard deviation in those scores. So this is a measure of how many standard deviations above or below the mean you are. This is an undergraduate course, which means that if you have a Z-score of 0, that you are exactly at the class average, you will get a high C. Maybe you will get the first C in class. What are going to be the grade boundaries? Please do not ask me the question, because I cannot answer that question until the end of the course. Grade boundaries depend upon gaps in the populations for Z-scores. So imagine a histogram where the y-axis is the number of people with a Z-score and the x-axis is the Z-score itself in various ranges. When we plot out that histogram, there are going to be gaps in that population, and wherever the gaps are, a grade boundary will come down, and that's how we will know who is going to be where. The guiding principle will be that Zi equal to 0 corresponds to a high C. If this were a grad level class, that would be a B neg or a B itself, but since it's an undergraduate class, it's going to be a high C. So that's the general way in which we'll be doing the grading. Any questions about the Z-score?
So average means a C grade, right?
Yeah, a high C, maybe the first C in class. Also, please.
What is first C? C is would be say a 6.
So first C will give us a 6 or a 7.
I don't know what 6 and 7. I just don't understand what C is. I mean, the CGPA calculation will leave
so
it.
like A is 10 and B is 7. So
yeah, okay.
C should be 6. Maybe.
Yeah. And an average generally means in most undergraduate programs all over the world, an average student and a C student are used interchangeably with each other. So that's how we're going to go. Any questions about the mathematics of the Z-score, etc., etc.? This is going to be a large enough class, so the statistics are going to be highly meaningful.
Like, is there any difference in the high C and the low C? Like,
Well, they will be, because see, just like as I mentioned, grade boundaries are going to be determined at the end of the course. So I can only tell you where C will roughly start, that is at Zi equal to 0. Where it will end depends upon how others have done in that class, how tight or broad that distribution is, and where the gaps are. So don't ask me, okay, I have this Z score, what grade will I get? We don't know.
Sir, the quizzes dates will be announced prior or they will be surprise?
As I just mentioned about 5 to 10 minutes ago, they will all be announced because the logistics of organizing this are too complicated otherwise.
Sir, there's a practice quiz on Moodle. When are we supposed to attempt it? Like
anytime you like. See, the purpose of the practice quiz on Moodle is to familiarize you with the interface, the quiz interface of Moodle. So many of you have already taken it. I think as of late last night, when I last checked, about 112 people had taken it. So that's good. And the earlier you get used to the Moodle interface, the better it will be for you. Because midterm quizzes and end term in ELL 101, as well as the quiz and the end term and the lab reports in ELP 101 are all going to be conducted using the same interface. So treat this as you would treat pen and paper.
Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Yeah.
So you said that each quiz will have a week or maybe 10 days of deadline to complete it. So does that mean that we'll be able to see the...
So let me first clarify something. The term quiz over here is being used in two different senses in case you haven't already realized. There is a Moodle activity known as quiz, which is a general placeholder for any exam conducted over Moodle. That quiz activity is going to be used for midterm, the quizzes, the academic quizzes that we are talking about here, and the end term. So the lab reports themselves will be organized in the form of a quiz. So everything from a Moodle standpoint is going to be a quiz, except that since we are academicians, we actually have a meaning for the word quiz, and that is these 5% credit quizzes that we are, you have up on the screen right now. So the lab reports will be due every, 7 to 14 days, but I would prefer not to discuss too much of the mechanics of ELP 101 because we are going to have to do that about 10 days from now anyways. Because there are, half of you. That was amusing. Okay. I assume it was not a question.
Sir, is it fixed that Zi equal to 0 means a C, or is it relative? Or is it fixed that Zi equal to 0 means a C only, even if
yes,
it doesn't depend on...
When I see Zi equal to 0, I will try to make that the first C in class. Yes. So you treat that as one fixed point in grading. Yes.
So it's like a fixed grading.
More or less just for the first C in class, but everything else is open.
So that means any positive Z score secures a grade above C?
Yes, it should, because I have in my grading so far at IIT Delhi, I have never given a C to anybody with a Zi greater than 0.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what I mean by saying that Zi equal to 0 will be the first C in class, because it starts at that point. Any questions regarding Z score?
So will we be shared the statistics, mean and standard deviation?
Yes, of course, because you need to be able to calculate your Z score. So at the end of every midterm, so rather in this case, a single midterm, I will be sharing the average and the standard deviation for that particular activity. At the end of every quiz, we will be sharing the average and standard deviation. Actually, if you look at the grade report, right now that grade report is empty. But if you look at the grade card on Moodle, it reports the average already. It's only the standard deviation that I will need to tell you about. And once you have those two pieces of information, you will be able to calculate your cumulative ZI, because your Z score will be basically sum of all activities until then.
Yeah. Sir, there is only one type of quiz, na?
One at a time, please.
Sir, there is only one type of quiz, like activity quiz, which we have to submit for 7 and 14 days.
I'm afraid I did not understand that question. Please.
Sir, there are only one type of quiz, na?
Well, as far as Moodle is concerned, there is an activity called quiz, just like there's an activity called assignment, there's an activity called forum. But we are using the activity called quiz to run all our exams, including some that are called academic quizzes, which are listed at 5% credit each here.
Sir, is latex is necessary to learn for this
Please
course?
read the document called Using Maths. It answers that question in great detail.
Sir, will we be using the Piazza discussion forum for doubts?
I've already made it very clear what the discussion forum is going to be. It's all on Moodle. Any other questions?
So what will the format of exams?
There are not going to be any formats. Prepare to be surprised. If there is a format, that means I failed in my duties as an instructor. Life is about dealing with the unexpected, not, well defined.
Sir, your quiz has time for 7 to 14 days.
This particular academic quiz will be a spot quiz that will be conducted during a single hour. The lab reports will have 14 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, this type of Z grading is generally done in all courses like we have done, or is it something specific to ELL?
I can only be answerable for this course. I can't answer for your other instructors. They will have their own grading policies.
Okay.
So is the maximum grading policy different from Z grading, like the one which you're using?
Maximum grading? What do you mean by maximum grading?
I don't know, sir. I couldn't find any specification to it, but after every mail, maximum grading policy was written.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. What I would suggest is that if you have a very high Z score, then you could be confident of getting a good grade. Generally, if your Z score is greater than 1 from experience, this is purely based on experience, you can be a good contender for an A- or an A even, depending upon how the class is done. For an A, generally, the Z scores go higher still. So try to understand that about 10% of each class tends to get an A, and unfortunately, the 10% of each class tends to get an F. Another thing I forgot to mention, there will be no E grade in this class at all. We will not be, we'll either be giving you a D straight away or an F straight away. There will be nothing in between which requires recalculation. It's also laid out in the introduction document.
Sir, it will be relative grading, no?
Yeah, I mean, when you use Z-score, clearly the implication is that you use relative grading. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, will there be an 80% barrier for A grade?
Generally, what we find is that people who get A based on Z-scores comfortably satisfy the 80% barrier or whatever. But you should also understand that the Z-score can be mapped exactly to the IIT Delhi grading scheme also. So that will be involving one more numerical transform. But what you really need to be worried about is how many sigmas above the average you are. That's the only thing you need to worry about. These exams could be super tough or super easy. And if they're super tough, then, obviously X bar is going to be small. And that means that even a small Xi might give you a good Zi. Your Zi is what matters.
Sir, what if GI is in decimal?
Zi is just a real number. I mean, as you can see, the right-hand side is a difference of two real numbers divided by real numbers. So the answer is a real number.
Sir, in decimal means if GI is 0, then we will get C. But what about B and minus?
As I just told you, and it is also up on the screen, grade boundaries will be determined at the end of the course. We do not know what they will be right now. If there is a population gap, that's where the grade boundary will go. The technical term for this in grading is also called grading on a curve. You can look that up on Google if you want.
Sir, what if sigma is 0, then which grade we will get?
Pardon? Hello? Yes? those are
Sir,
interesting.
if sigma is 0, then
I get.
What grade we will get?
So I guess I'm talking to a mathematician. So sigma in a normal distribution is never 0. There's always a scatter. It's a measure of your scatter. So sigma would be 0 if all of you decided to get, the same score on an exam, somewhere. So that will be an example of sigma equal to 0. That situation is unphysical. And in my experience or any reported experience, that has never happened. So yeah. Real life is always a scatter because people come with different the preparation and abilities. Yes.
Sir, ELP is a lab assignment. Will we get questions in midterm or in term from ELP?
I will discuss ELP 101 in detail in 10 days from now, not at this time. We are only discussing ELL 101 at this time.
Okay.
So let us move. So I think we are done with, at least conveying the credit distribution. There's one more thing I would like to mention here, the ethics policy. I understand that some students don't like to do the hard work and earn their grades the old-fashioned way. But there's always two sides to that story. There is always a student trying to help, quote unquote. Two comments on that. Number one, if you spare your colleague the needed struggle to earn a grade, you are stunting his or her growth in future. You're not really his or her friend. And B, if you are, and you just look at this expression, if you're raising X bar by helping others, you are worsening your own Z-score. So you're hurting yourself. So my suggestion would be, please do not, quote unquote, help others. Now, if it becomes clear to us that there's been a case of cheating involved, I will not give you any warning or anything. I will be reporting it directly to the dean for action. There is zero, absolutely zero tolerance for cheating. So I know some instructors say that, okay, we will give you an F or whatever. Yes, you will probably get an F if you were caught cheating. But if you are cheating, you'll be directly reported. There are no second chances, no third chances, nothing. Because that's not a mistake. That's actually a moral failure, and you know the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. Any other questions or comments that you may have? Because I think our time is nearly up. It's a minute to 10:50.
Sir, in the document, it was written exams will be open book and open notes. So will we be allowed to see the PDFs on our laptop, which are up on the Moodle?
Yes, see, even when I used to conduct exams on campus for your seniors, I always followed an open book, open notes policy, because understanding is more important than memory. When you go into a profession, you're always going to be able to look up reference books or go to Google for a search or something like that. So prizing memory over understanding is never a good choice, in my opinion. So yes, open book, open notes is like the standard in all my exams. I follow it whether it's on campus or off campus. Yeah.
Sir, we can help. We can take help only from the textbook,
There is no textbook for this class. We have only some reference books that are listed. You are welcome to try other books as well. There is no textbook. The contents of the lecture and whatever is discussed in the tutorial will be sufficient for your, performance in this class.
Sir, we can take help from other side book, which we prefer.
I just said that. You are welcome to follow any book you like. We have just listed two suggestions, but they are by no means the only, fish in the pond.
So if a lecture is uploaded today, then
Pardon?
When we are supposed to?
When as soon as you can. Means it's up to you, right? You are the one who's trying to earn a grade. So earlier would in general be better. But that's completely up to you. I might upload the lecture at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have in previous semester I have seen people who have been up at 3 o'clock, they go through the lecture and then they go to sleep. People work at all kinds of crazy hours. Some people prefer to work at night because it's quieter at that time. Many of you are, obviously living with your families and in a noisy neighborhood, and during the day you can't focus. So many students study at night. I'm not going to specify that for you. I just require that you view it and understand the content. What time you do it at is your business.
So would we have to learn MATLAB for the labs?
You can use Octave, which is open source. You can download it today, install it on your laptop and run it. That's not a problem, but it's not required. It depends upon what you want to do. If you want to use the opportunity for data analysis and learn MATLAB in the process, or brush up your Python skills in the process, etc., it's up to you. I'm not going to ask you to submit MATLAB scripts as such. I'm only going to be interested in what kind of analysis you did and how competently it was done. The tool is your choice.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, the open book allows us to go through only the
PDF. One question at a time, please.
So what are you suggesting? Like we should use MATLAB or like something else?
I don't know. For us? See, if it's a complicated calculation and you're going to repeat it multiple times, if I were you, I would actually write a function in Octave or Python or MATLAB and reuse it. Code reuse you a lot of time. If you like to do it by hand, do it by hand. It's up to you. I'm not going to because everybody has their own learning, and learning style, and I'm not going to interfere in that.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, in exams, do we have to show our working in the text box compulsorily? Will there be marks based on that?
Please read the introductory document that makes it extremely clear. It is your choice. Not doing carries a risk. Doing it carries a time cost. So you have to decide it for yourself.
Sir, there is nothing written about the marks. So there are no marks for writing in the text box, right? The solution.
Let me put it this way. If you ask for partial credit and after your answer was graded to be wrong, just because you made a silly mistake in the last step, if nothing is shown in the box, you will not be considered for partial grading at all. That is why I said read that particular document and try to decide your own risk strategy. My suggestion would be write something. Otherwise, you will not going to get any partial credit, but that's just a suggestion. It's not a requirement.
Sir, the open book allow only go through the PDF and the reference book, or also allow us to the Googling?
As says, no communication. That means don't go online. So download a PDF, study it to your heart's content, buy a physical copy, whichever you prefer. But no internet, no communication.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Other than you obviously connecting to Moodle to answer the quiz, obviously, but that's all.
So can we use PSpice?
Your call. PSpice, ngSpice, whichever you like. Means if you feel that will enhance your understanding of the circuit, yeah, why not? It's a skill, right? If you want to enrich your knowledge with additional skills, that's perfectly fine. You should be doing that even in the absence of the course, if that's what you like to do. It will help you a lot later if you're doing electrical engineering for a major.
What is it?
It's a circuit simulator. So you can define a circuit in text as something called a netlist, and then the simulator basically does small circuit, a small signal analysis or DC analysis, and gives you current versus voltage or whatever your particular component defined is. It's a skill. I'm not going to mandate it. It may enrich your understanding or it may actually retard your understanding. It's up to you.
So can you please once again repeat the name of that software?
It's called Spice. That is what the student was referring to. PSpice is a particular PC implementation of Spice. There is an open source version called ngSpice. It's a circuit simulator, but its use entirely depends upon you. It is not required for the course, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
So is there any coding skills will be visually implement in the course?
I can barely hear you. There's an echo in your voice. Please try to sit closer to the mic.
Sir, I was saying that is there any coding skills which will be required in this course?
like I answered the other question, whether I expect MATLAB scripting. No, but it could be helpful. It could save you a lot of time, and it could actually save you from errors. So I'm not saying it is required, but like all skills, it is helpful. So you decide at what point the effort and time involved in learning new skills becomes distracting, and at what point not investing in that becomes limiting to your growth. It's entirely a personal decision.
Sir, what was MATLAB?
MATLAB is like it's an interpreter. You can actually write scripts or functions. It will run them for you like code. You can even compile. There's a MATLAB compiler also, but it produces code that is a little bit faster, but it can't be compared to C or Fortran compilers, for instance. So yeah, it is kind of a language as well. There is an open source implementation of it called Octave, which differs very slightly in terms of string handling. And then there is obviously Python, which is does everything that MATLAB, more or less everything that MATLAB can do, and it's completely open source and free. And in speaking purely now, not as your teacher, but as a researcher, 2 years ago, we made a switch from using MATLAB for our data analysis, and I'm talking about research data, not course-related data, to Python. And we have noticed that the transition has been very smooth. Yeah. But again, whether you want to learn any of this or not is your call, whether you see a value for it or not.
Sir, we can use calculators, right?
Of course. Means in real life, in professional life, when you need to estimate something, you're going to use a calculator. Maybe it is on your phone or whatever. I only require that your phone be on airplane mode when you use that calculator. That's all.
Sir, due to sound disturbance, I didn't listen, sir. From next time, where will we live lecture?
I don't know. It depends upon Pratosh is probably going to teach from tomorrow onwards. So he may choose to do a live lecture, or he may want to upload a video. It depends upon him. But regardless of whatever the choice he exerts, a video will end up on Impartus, which you can view at your leisure.
Sir, in case it will be uploaded, then we can ask a doubt in a tutorial class.
Yes. Or you can be a little bit more impatient and pose your question on the student discussion forum, and then you can get an almost immediate answer. Yeah.
But one-to-one interaction, I feel it's good.
Yeah. See, the thing is, in a class size of 595 for EL 101 and 1158 for ELP 101, it is by definition a one-to-many interaction, and especially when
in tutorial class there will be only 30 students, no?
Well, tutorial grouping consists of at least 4 groups, and from what I've seen, each group is 30 students. So what we will try to do is to assign at least one TA to each of those 30 groups, and then there will be an instructor available for any questions in the background. But in tutorials, the plan is to generally have problem sets that you solve in live session with the help of the TA if needed. And they can also use the whiteboard on Microsoft Teams or any other platform to help you solve some of the problems, and then you solve another example or something. It's more for team problem solving rather than actual question and answer sessions. Of course, you can ask questions, but the focus there is on problem solving. Yes.
Sir, in all subject, in semester first, we saw that assignment given before the tutorial class, and we have to ask doubt in tutorial class. But in ELL, it will not happen.
We will decide. We may give you like release the PDF for the problem set that will be solved ahead of time. That means that you will end up in tutorials with some idea of what you're going to work on, and that's something that we will most likely do. But we won't be expecting you to submit that as an assignment or something. It is purely for your practice and your depth of your understanding, to see how problem solving is done, perhaps by a senior student such as a TA. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So, will there be a consolidated syllabus provided? Like
it is a course of study. So I would advise you to go to a document, Courses of Study. The latest document from IIT Delhi, it lists EL 100, in detail what the topics considered will be.
Okay, sir. Thank you so
That
much.
is true. That is true for all your courses, not just this course. All your courses are listed there.
Oh, sir, certain courses change the structure from batch A to batch SEM 1 to SEM 2, so that's why I was concerned about it.
Well, I'm not. See, there were 4 colleagues different from the current set who were involved in teaching of EL 100 in the previous semester. But what we have found over the years is that the content that is covered remains more or less the same. But the emphasis obviously depends upon the individual instructor who is teaching you that topic. So there are some variations, but they are not large enough to actually constitute changes in syllabus as such. We will teach. Yeah. Especially in a first year course, you generally don't do that. Yeah.
So when will first lecture be uploaded?
Pardon? Hello?
So when will the first lecture be uploaded?
As soon as this lecture ends, hopefully, depending upon imparters availability. Yeah.
Sir, please repeat where we get a syllabus.
Courses of study. It's a document called Courses of Study. If you go to any kind of search engine like DuckDuckGo or Google, search for Courses of Study IIT Delhi 2021 or something. One of the first links will be Courses of Study document.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, if there will be live lectures, then is there any necessary attendance policy for the course?
That depends upon the dean, because the dean sets the policies for attendance in the case of first year. I personally do not care much about attendance because it's frankly an administrative overhead for me. I would rather focus on teaching you than keeping track on who's there. But since asynchronous teaching has been permitted as a mechanism, my impression would be, and do not quote me on this, my impression would be that perhaps quote unquote attendance in that sense will not be very important. Now, one of us may decide that a certain lecture is important enough where I want to make sure that people attend. Let's say the lecture on error analysis and introduction to ELP 101 that I will deliver in about 10 days. In which case, I would probably want to know who attended and who didn't. But it is not going to impact your grade in this at all, because we are not awarding E grade anyways, because it's a fundamentally unfair grade. So as far as I'm concerned, attendance does not matter. If my lectures are worth it, please do attend. If you believe you can learn on your own, that's again your call. That's what flipped mode learning means. But you will all be facing a common evaluation structure. And how you navigate that structure will determine how you do in this course. What I have found through experience is that students who are irregular in lectures generally tend not to do well. Of course, they're outliers, but they're outliers in everything.
Sir, for A grade, we need to achieve more than 80% in the course.
Please read the fourth statement that you are seeing on the screen right now. Grade boundaries will be determined at the end of the course depending upon where the gaps in Z scores are. That goes for all different grades. The only thing that is fixed is the first C in class. End of discussion. So maybe the Z score threshold will be like 1.5 or 1.3. We don't know. It depends on your performance throughout this course. My suggestion is take your course seriously, do well. Grades will take care of themselves. My job is to worry about your grades. Your job is to worry about the content. Don't make it the other way around. Any other questions? We can close this. We've already gone 5 minutes over. You must have other lectures at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding this EL.
Pardon? Okay, all right. So we will call this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.